Welcome into Serve and Volley, featuring Nebraska assistant coach and recruiting coordinator Jaylen Reyes. Serve and Volley gives you a look behind the curtain of Nebraska volleyball and a coach's perspective on the world of college athletics. Serve and Volley is sponsored by Love Volleyball Nebraska. Become a Love Volleyball Nebraska member for your chance to engage with Love and its players. Now it's time for First Serve on Serve and Volley with your host, Jaylen Reyes.
All right, welcome in Serve and Volley here on a Tuesday night. This is a pre-recording, but you guys are still welcome to join in. 402-464-5685. We can always read these and talk about them next week, but we got the host as always, Jaylen Reyes, in here. And like I said, Facebook, YouTube, X, Owl, Channel 961, pre-recording, but you can still join the show and comment on there, and we will take a look at him for next week. But nonetheless, we got Jaylen Reyes in here. Another undefeated weekend, 18-0 Husker volleyball. Jaylen, how's it going on a starting to feel like a real fall Tuesday here in Lincoln?
It was a great weekend in Michigan. I got to compete against two really good teams, two teams that have really drastically improved, especially since last season. Second time we got to play Michigan this season, and first time playing Michigan State. We'll get to play them again this week. But yeah, things to work on for sure headed into this weekend. But anytime you win in the Big Ten, it's always a good thing.
How in I don't want to say important, but how big is it to go 3 straight road games and come out with pretty convincing wins?
I just think at the end of the day, we think Nebraska is like the epicenter of volleyball, but unfortunately we can't win it all in Nebraska, right? The national championships in Kansas City, and we're going to have to be able to take the show on the road, and like how you illustrated just there, we've been able to do that. But 3 tough matches in a row on the road, all different matches. I know the score ends up being 3-0, but a bunch of different challenges. Each team presents a different challenge, and I'm sure these two teams this weekend will present a different one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you got 2 teams. Just got the pink match. That is this Friday versus Northwestern. So I'm assuming everyone just come out and wear pink, right? Is that the message?
Yeah, it's obviously it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and a great cause, and I know some of our families, staff, and as well as players have loved ones, family members that have been touched by this terrible disease, and we encourage all the fans this weekend to kind of show their support. And I know I usually both volleyball teams in these matches do a good job. I'm sure Northwestern will have something too. So it's always kind of a fun game, and I always think the girls sports do it better than the boys. If that just girls wear pink better, in my opinion, and I'm sure it's going to be a cool sight at Devaney on Friday.
Yep, and we talked about before when they did that stripe match, they're going to show out. They get the message just about every time you put it out there for them. So definitely, if you're heading to that Friday match, again, that's versus Northwestern at home, October 24th, 6 p.m. Be sure wear some pink out there. I don't know if you can even speak on this. Is the uniforms, you guys doing anything with the pink? Does the volleyball ever break into anything like that?
I don't. In the past, we have not.
Okay.
Don't quote me because I don't. I know usually, girls, they do. I know they change their shoestrings. They have obviously like the ribbon that goes in their hair. They do a bunch of different things with that. I know, and I'm sure they're going to do like pink socks. I'm not sure jersey wise if that's usually not my area of expertise, especially during games. But I know they'll have something. They'll look great like they always do, and again, just out there to support a great cause.
Yeah, it's always really cool. And again, I was a big fan of the Husker football jerseys over the weekend, and I know a lot of people are saying that's not Nebraska. Well, we can, for a moment, think of it for a bigger cause, so it didn't really bother me. But I thought it was really cool that the football team had those pink helmets out there. Again, just putting support out there and the awareness for breast cancer. And I was curious if volleyball, but like I said, I won't press you on that. I don't want you to give any hidden details or speak on something that you may not fully know. But nonetheless, let's talk about over the weekend. Michigan State, we'll start there. That one was Friday. Again, a 3-0 set. Doesn't always tell the entirety of the match, but break down that match for me.
Well, one record-setting crowd for them, which was awesome. I believe that one was 11 something. I think it was around there.
Did you do that for Michigan State and Michigan then?
Yeah, so record. Okay. Biggest crowd in the state of Michigan on Friday, and then on the game on Sunday, biggest crowd again in the state of Michigan.
And quickly, I can say this because I know you can't. they kind of edited out a lot of the red on that graphic for Michigan, but you know what? Do what you will.
Yeah, hey,
you put it out there, so
hey, it's an attendance record for that home team,
Absolutely.
so that's awesome. You know, sure, a lot of those home attendance record for certain teams always kind of have maybe a very similar road team that they're playing against, but again, I just think come to that. I know we've talked about this on the show. Just the sport of volleyball is growing, the popularity. Right, we had a insane turnout here in the state of Michigan for 2 nights. The state, when we played at Rutgers, New Jersey, we broke a record there. So, you know, I just think this, you know, of course, the popularity of the Nebraska volleyball program is, in my opinion, second to none. But it's also just the wellness of the entire sport of volleyball. It's just growing. More people are playing it. Better athletes are playing it. It's just becoming more exciting. It's on television more. It's on bigger television windows, which is all positive things for us in the volleyball world. But getting back to Michigan State, we great crowd, like I was going with there, and we got off to a pretty hot start. I felt like we kind of jumped on them pretty early, and just because we're playing them this week, and maybe not go into too many of the details, but they came in with some players that were playing really well, a couple foreign outsides that were playing really well, and an opposite that was had some big numbers, especially in like the previous 4 or 5 matches. So we kind of wanted to make sure we try to take care of some of the stuff that they liked to do. They made some adjustments. We made some adjustments. I thought we served it really well. I didn't think we got off to the best start offensively in terms of rhythm, but we found that as we went. I thought Harper Murray had a really, really solid match, like she's been playing recently. And then I thought the two middles, Rebecca Alec and Andy Jackson, kind of led the way there. And then I thought everybody else, like, Virginia Adriano and Taylor Landfair, T. Sigler, kind of came in, as we got going there. But no, Michigan State, we got up on them pretty good, I would say, in the first set, held them off. Second set, the second set was a weird one because it was just like a game of runs. I think we started the game off up 6-0. And then suddenly it was like 7-7 or 8-8. And then we went on another run. They kind of went on a mini run to get it somewhat close. And then we kind of went on a run. So that game was just such a, 5 or 6 points this way, and then turn around later, 2 points later, 5 or 6 points the other way. And that's something we've been talking about is, obviously we want to go on these 3-4 point runs while we're serving, but we want to try to like mitigate that type of, extreme back and forth. So that's something that, coaching staff talked over the weekend, and we really, we're going to be working on this week of practice. And then third set, kind of an interesting set too, in a way of, there was a couple of points where I think it could have gone either way. We decided to kind of hop into a 6-2. So when I say a 6-2, that's where we jump in. Campbell Flynn and Ali Check come in for when Bergen Riley is in the front row. So that way it gives us, 3 hitters in the front row. And credit to Michigan State. They made some adjustments. I thought they also served the ball a little bit better in the third set, and they didn't quit, and they kept fighting. And, sign of a coaching staff that's doing a really, really good job there. And they kept fighting, and they pushed us to, I don't remember all the details, but it was like 17-17, 17-16. And
yep. And you guys were able to pull away.
Yeah.
25-18.
Yeah. So we ate it with like side out and then went on a couple nice serving runs at the end. But it was, definitely a barn burner set, especially when you got into the later teens. And then I want to say Bergen Riley ended up checking back in, because when that back row setter rotates to the front row, usually what you do is you sub back in the opposites of Virginia Adriano, and Bergen Riley went back in. Bergen went on a nice little serving run to kind of hold off State. But I think the scores weren't really an indicator of actually how close the match was or how up and down it was. But they did some nice things, and I know they're going to make some adjustments. So Saturday's game is going to be kind of an interesting chess match to see how, especially, it's very rare you have this quick back-to-back game where it's like 8 days later the same two teams are playing again.
I was going to ask you about that. I was like, maybe I'm mistaken, but it feels like I don't see you guys turning around that often. And
we don't.
Once again,
it's very rare in women's volleyball scheduling where it's you have to play a team again within a short amount of time. Like this. So for example, on Sunday we played Michigan, but we played Michigan about 4 weeks ago, and that even felt kind of short. So now it's like 8 days later. So this will be Saturday night, I know, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Saturday night should be an interesting one playing the Spartans again.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say it all the time, but once you get to Big Ten play, it's in Nebraska's, you're going to get a good shot when you're that number one team that everyone's out there chasing. And to Nebraska's credit, they've done a good job understanding that so far. And we'll talk about Michigan, but before we do, I do got to shout out Harper Murray. I mean, she's just been incredibly consistent. How have you kind of seen her develop as just and I know she's not the only leader on the team, but is she, a vocal leader? Is it just purely by action? But I mean, night in, night out, you feel like you know what you're getting with her.
Yeah, I mean, credit to her. I mean, she's put in a lot of work, not just volleyball-wise, not just physicality-wise, but in that mental space like you talked about. And even though she wasn't, quote-unquote, voted a captain, just her presence is kind of felt, whether she is a captain or not. She kind of has to kind of lead, if that makes sense. And I think she's been doing a really good job of doing it with her play on the court and then with her guidance to certain people off the court, if that makes sense. I think there's a bunch of different ways you can be a successful leader, right? Successful leaders don't all look the same. They have some similar qualities, but they don't all do it all the same. But yeah, Harp's been doing a great job. When you talk about the volleyball stuff, I mean, we asked her to do pretty much everything besides in-system setting, like what Bergen does, right? So she has to pass, just play defense, serve, block, obviously hit in-system attacks, out-of-system attacks from the left, from the back row, from the right. We asked her to do a lot, and the key is she's been really extremely efficient. She's always been a high volume attacker in terms of getting the number of sets. In terms of, hey, she's always been, a leading killer for us in our first 2 years. But now for as of right now in the last month or so, she's been really dynamic out of the back row. So not just being an attacker in the front row. She's become a better blocker. She's been becoming more an efficient passer to where a lot of teams just don't even serve her anymore. She went from her freshman year getting served pretty much every ball to now she doesn't get served as much anymore. And that's just kind of a credit to her growth over the years. And, but again, it's not just volleyball technique wise. Sometimes it's just being able to be consistent, in the right headspace and making sure, hey, we make an error. It's not the end of the world. It's like you've been around this block before. It's keep going. And by the time the match is done, you might not even remember the error that you're freaking out about. So, no, she's been really consistent for us, and that's a huge thing for us is making sure. I mean, we want everyone to be consistent, but especially a player like her where she touches the ball so much, it's like extremely important she's efficient.
Yeah, and as we keep saying, to her credit, she has been. She's been a really great job, especially over the past month, like you said. And I'll, correct me if I'm wrong, but as great as you have talent out there on the court, it feels like mental fortitude might be this team's biggest strength so far in the season.
Yeah, I think right now, I think one of the things that helps a ton is the fact that we have a bunch of people that have been there.
Yeah.
Like it's a huge, and this is kind of the changing of the guard, right? 2 years ago, most of our team was freshmen, sophomores, people that haven't played in Final Fours. Now, if you include Taylor Landfair, Rebecca Alec, Andy Jackson, Bergen Riley, Harper Murray, Lainey Choboy, Libby Mock, they've all played in 1 or 2 Final Fours, and played in some really big matches.
And your new head coach.
Yeah, new head coach that's been there too. And Danny's also been here at Nebraska, not as a head coach, but so it's the experience is something that we just can't give to them, right? You can't just give that to people. So that's one thing that I think really helps. And I just think there's a belief right now too. And I think Danny's done an unbelievable job so far of just creating this, whoever's out there, we have the same expectations, the same standard that we set. And just because we might put in Ali Check and Campbell Flynn, for an example, that doesn't, hey, we lessen our expectations, because in fact, sometimes for our game changers on the bench, we expect them to come in and raise the level of play, right? And, whenever we leave T. Sigler in the front row for Taylor Landfair, we expect a lot out of her. And I could go down the list of players, but I think there's just a belief and there's an expectation that Danny from day one is set to where, hey, we need this is Nebraska volleyball. We need to match this intensity and this level of play and this attention to detail, which, credit to the players. They've been really, really doing an awesome job. And sure, hey, there's certain areas we need to get better at, and there'll always be. But for the most part, I think what a lot of them are doing is extremely difficult. It's not as easy as just showing up and, hey, we're Nebraska, we should win these matches. For us, it's, hey, we need to win 3 sets by 2 points. Can we do it as efficient as we can? We're going to work as really hard as we can. We're going to work as smart as we need to, and then let the chips fall where they may. But that's also earned in practice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's volleyball and why the mental fortitude sticks out to me. It's such a momentum heavy sport. It feels like at times, and they've had some moments where they've really been tested, especially earlier in the year. I believe it was Kentucky where they had the reverse sweep. Yep. And then Creighton wasn't a reverse sweep, but it went all the way to 5. And Creighton, their program gets better and better every year. And the times they've been tested, they've responded all in a really great way. So, plenty of season left. That's got to continue. But up to this point, I think that's how you get to an 18-0. Let's talk about Michigan, the second road game. That one was obviously Sunday. You guys won it again, 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, again, another record-setting crowd. Awesome crowd. Obviously, we talked about Harper already, but just with her family ties to the University of Michigan, her dad playing football there and family living in Ann Arbor. And, one cool thing about it was Saturday night, we got to go over to Harper's house and, have a meal there and hang out. And it's a really cool house. So they got like a little outdoor patio area where there's TVs. Obviously, there was a bunch of great college football on that night. So
there's got to be a lot of hardware in that place.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, it's crazy. So like, for an example, her dad was high school classmates with Ken Griffey Jr. She calls him Uncle Ken. So she's got so much cool signed memorabilia. She's got obviously like a Woody Hayes, Lloyd Carr helmets. Okay. They got the Michigan helmets. There's a Jim Tressel signed, Ohio State Buckeye helmet in there, which I'm surprised they allow that in that house. There's a Les Miles signed just because her dad knew all these people. Les Miles had there's an LSU Les Miles helmet in there. There's a signed Ken Griffey Jr. bat and Mariner jersey, which was pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Jim Hardball. There's a Jim Hardball. All these people have ties, besides Ken Griffey Jr., ties to the Michigan football, right? So Jim Hardball, but it was a Stanford signed Jim Hardball helmet. It was kind of I think, memoir for when Harper's dad tragically passed away, because he touched the lives of so many people. So, I mean, there was just so much cool stuff there. And every time I go back there, it's just cool to just see and especially Harper necessarily because she was so young, she doesn't necessarily know who these people are. Right. I remember she was floored the first time I like, Harper, do you have a Ken Griffey Jr. signed bat? She's like, yeah, Uncle Ken. Her dad and Ken Griffey were high school classmates, I believe, at Moeller High School, and they were like Mr. Ohio Athletes of the Year. One, give you a level of like where the athletic genes that Harper has, and then obviously Fado went to go play, defensive back at the University of Michigan. You don't accidentally just get to do that, especially the time he did it in. But so we got to go over there, and that was awesome, and that was a really cool idea. Obviously, thanks to the Murrays for having us over. Danny loves doing that whenever they travel, and it was really just for us, it's for the staff, but also for their teammates to see where Harper grew up. That's the house she grew up in, which was really awesome.
Is that you said that was Danny Busboom Kelly? She likes to do that.
Yeah, she's done that in the past at Louisville whenever they travel to somewhere where you get to see someone's hometown. So.
I love that idea.
So it's just because you don't get to do that all the time.
It's good for team chemistry.
Yeah,
and see where they come from.
And they get to hang out, and sometimes you hang out at a hotel. If you travel as much as we do, sometimes hanging out in a hotel is kind of lame. And the girls typically go do their own thing, and if they're in this room, they typically go to their room. So now it was kind of cool to see all of them get to hang out. There was a upstairs in the living room. There's a downstairs living room. Of course, there's a room where they're all making TikToks. Of course. There's a movie room where a lot of them hanging out. There is a very, very intense game of pool or billiards, whichever one you want to call them, in the downstairs little man cave area between, if I remember correctly, it was think it was T. Sigler, Virginia Adriano, and 2 of our GAs were, kind of going at it and kind of messing around with each other. And hey, was the foot on the floor on this one or not? I don't know, but I was definitely one of the people outside watching college football, and there was a couple other parents there too. So that was kind of fun, right? Everyone just gets to kind of mingle. We're on a road trip. Obviously, it's a business trip, but it's nice to just kind of unplug and hey, we're all part of Nebraska volleyball, but we're not having to talk about volleyball all the time. So that was also really fun. Every time we go to the University of Michigan, playing at the Crisis Center is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So we got to play there. Sellout crowd, record-setting crowd. It was over
how loud
12.
was that place?
It was loud. It wasn't. It's different than Michigan State because it goes further away. So it's not like Devaney where like all the crowd, like there's some people that are like really, really far from the action. So it was a great crowd. I wouldn't say it was super loud. It wasn't the loudest. I don't know if Michigan having a football game the day before and it being an earlier Sunday game, I'm not sure. I'm sure some of the fans maybe were a little, maybe not feeling as well after Saturday night versus Sunday middle afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was a good match. They came out and they ran talking about the 6-2, like we talked about, where you have 2 setters that are setting an offense when they're in the back row. So you have an opposite coming in and out with the setter. When they played us here the first time to open Big Ten play, they were doing a 6-2. After they played us for the next 5-ish matches, they went back to a 5-1, similar to what we do, where we have one setter kind of playing all the way around. The setter actually, her name's Morgan Burke. She actually went to Omaha Catholic, which is funny. And in fact, both of the setters that we played against this weekend were both Nebraska kids. Michigan State setter Malaya Long, she's a Lincoln Southwest kid. And then obviously Morgan Burke's the Omaha Catholic girl.
This again goes to show how much talent's right here, despite the population
of
Nebraska.
It's crazy. I mean, there's a few players around the Big Ten, and we'll get through them as we go here. We played against Grace Heaney, she's the opposite for Purdue. She's an Elkhorn North kid. There's a Papio La Vista kid that's playing at USC. There's actually a lot of kids kind of scattered around the Big Ten, obviously, including the ones on our team. But Morgan, for the most part, the setter for Michigan, she was running a 5-1 for the last, I don't know, how many matches was that? 7 matches after us in between, sandwiched in between when we first played them to when we played them on Sunday. And they hop right back into the 6-2 right when they played us, So, trying to adjust on the fly to a degree. I think it was good that it wasn't that long ago that we played them, and they basically were doing the same-ish system against us. So we kind of just hopped back into like, hey, this is what they did last time. So
it's kind of good to have a quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's where the quick turnaround I think helps, right? Mm-hmm. We're familiar. Hey, we remember this setter because we didn't really prepare for the other setter because they weren't using her at all for the last, 2.5-3 weeks. So, so there's a wrinkle, game within the game right there that I thought the Huskers came out. They played really well. Michigan played a really, if for the listeners out there, for how they played, if you guys remember the first match when we played them here in Lincoln, Michigan played a really, really good first set.
Yeah.
Really extremely efficient. They're a team that when they pass good, they will set the ball, maybe the fastest in the country in terms of setting the ball at the pin, especially in the Big Ten. They set it so fast. They have really good and athletic middles. So just trying to decipher, hey, is that a pin set? Is that a middle set? And getting the block in the right space and the defenders in the right space and quick enough is a challenge. So that's what they did in the first set when they played us here. This past Sunday, I thought they did even a better job for about halfway through the first set. We didn't serve it very hard. So when they pass the ball and they're on the net, they're a pain to deal with. And then, of course, they hop into that other system halfway through it. And now it's like, okay, we're kind of on our heels, if I'm being honest, defensively. And I thought one thing that we did a great job of to kind of change that first set was we just started serving the ball so aggressively. And that started backing their setters off the net. And when they do that, when you try to play really fast, it's just really hard to see the block because the trajectory of the ball that's coming, because it's coming so flat, you almost have to be looking away from the net and then hitting, and they can't necessarily feel where our blockers are. And it's just the speed element comes when you pass well, because it's so hard to predict where the ball is going to get set to. So it's hard to position the block correctly.
Right.
But when you're off the net, every offense just becomes way more predictable. And now when they set it fast from off the net, it makes it easier to line up the block. So I felt like we used serving to really change the trajectory of halfway through that first set toward it ended. And I thought our serving even kept ramping up to where the second and third sets, I think we took control pretty early in those sets. And, it allowed us to make some lineup changes. It allowed us to kind of work on some things during the game because of the service pressure we had. And I just also think too, when you play against teams that set it really fast, I'm trying to find another analogy. Okay. So I went to school at BYU, and I went to school at BYU back when this is right before they went to independent. They played in the Mountain West Conference, and they played against Air Force that run the option. Mm-hmm. And then I remember Kyle Van Noy, who plays for the Ravens now. He's a defensive end outside linebacker. He would always talk about he hates playing against Air Force because their line, and I'm not even sure this is legal anymore, but they could cut block.
Yeah, no, they can't do it anymore.
Air Force, they're not big, right? It's not like you're playing against Michigan's O-line where they have these 6'8" guys that are all going to play in the NFL, because the Air Force, they have height requirements, size requirements. So to play football, they're doing all these different things and running the option. Like, they'd always talk about the first drive against Air Force, even though you prep for the option and all their different things they can do off of it, it always takes people like time to get out there and see it live. Volleyball's version is when you play against teams that just set it really fast. They set the ball faster than we do, especially to their outside hitters. I also thought like that first set where they got off to an efficient start was also just like, no matter how much we talk about it, no matter how much we prep it, it takes time to just get used to the speed that they play with and making sure our blockers' hands are in the correct spots and on time. So I thought the first time we played them here, it took us almost the full set to do it. Thank gosh we ended up, playing really efficient offense, and then the block showed up. I thought serving showed up, and then the block kind of showed up halfway through that first set. So I think we were up 15-14 at the first media timeout, and then we kind of separated from there. And I thought second and third sets, we did a good job of, at the beginning of the game, separating pretty quickly. And I thought serving was a big deal there. But, credit to them. They run it. It's a really fun offense to be a part of. I'd love to be a setter. If I was a great setter, I'd love to be a setter that it's like the equivalent of like being a quarterback in an air raid, where it's like, man, you're going to chuck it around all the time, So, it's one thing, though, is like when you get served off the net, that system becomes a little less efficient just because it's harder to keep that same pace from as your setter gets further away from the net. So credit to our servers. But, yeah, those two teams are really good. Obviously, Michigan State's coming back again. Mm-hmm. And, Michigan, as of the season ended today, I think Michigan would be one of the teams on the bubble. Michigan State's probably firmly in the field of 64. So, again, they're going to be coming. And, the great thing about the Big Ten is there's always an opportunity each week, or maybe even two opportunities to, win a big match that can either cement your space in the tournament or push yourself over the edge.
Yeah, and we'll wait and see. Again, plenty of season left, and some of those teams to get that one big win, and all of a sudden you see them go on a huge run and get right back into it. But that being said, though, we are up to our first break, so don't go anywhere. We got two more segments on the other side. Serve and Volley with Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Jaylen Reyes. Don't go anywhere.
After a long, hot summer, are you ready for fall? What about your home? Is your heating system ready for cooler temperatures ahead? Call Bryant for your fall heating check. No matter what brand of equipment you own, Bryant's trained technicians will thoroughly clean and inspect your furnace or heat pump to make sure you stay warm, safe, and comfortable. Call today to schedule your home heating check. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Tired of asking what's for dinner? Nourished for Life has got you covered. At Nourished, they're a local meal prep company that delivers fresh, chef-crafted, healthy meals straight to your door. Made from wholesome ingredients and ready when you are. No shopping, no chopping. Just heat, eat, and enjoy every night of the week. Fuel your busy days with balanced meals that are designed to keep you satisfied and energized. Visit nourishedforlife.co to purchase meals and taste the convenience of home-cooked comfort without the hassle. It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier power sports dealership. Get geared up for savings like you've never seen before during Elway Days. Their biggest sale of the year runs October 14th through the 18th when every red tag machine is priced at invoice plus $300. That's it. No freight, no setup, no extra fees. Don't miss out on these epic savings. Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered all under one roof with a large selection of side-by-sides, ATVs, motorcycles, and personal watercraft at their 27th and I-80 location.
Imagine hitting rewind on your life 10, even 20 years. With testosterone therapy from Limitless Male, you can turn back the aging clock and get your edge, energy, and confidence back. If you've lost your drive, sleep deprived, muscle loss, belly fat, irritable, you're not the guy you once were. Get your T levels checked at Limitless Male. More and more men are realizing hormone replacement can turn back the clock. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Husker fans know when you work together, great things happen. At Cornhusker Bank, they're more than your financial partner. With 5 locations in Lincoln and 1 in Omaha, they're your neighbors, your teammates, and your biggest fans. Whether you're saving for your first home, planning your future, or growing your business, they're right here in Nebraska to help you move forward together. Visit cornhusker.bank to learn more. Cornhusker Bank, member FDIC. Doing life together.
Deciding on a college with your high school senior can be a little overwhelming for parents. But applying for money to pay for it is simple. FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is now easier than ever with fewer questions and faster fill-out times. If you have a high school senior, now is the time to apply for thousands of dollars for classes, books, and housing. Get started, Nebraska, at dothefafsa.org. Sponsored by Education Quest Foundation. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Welcome into Serve Volley with your host, Nebraska assistant coach and recruiting coordinator Jaylen Reyes.
All right, welcome back in segment number 2, Serve and Volley with Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Jaylen Reyes. Again, this is a pre-recording, but you can still send your messages in. We will get to them next week. 402-464-5685. We just got done with the last segment. Again, we're talking Nebraska volleyball. 3 straight road games. They had 2 road games, both in Michigan over the weekend. Michigan State, Michigan, they both win those, stay undefeated, 18-0. But coming up here, you got 2 home games as well, and you got Northwestern, the first one at 6 p.m. And then, again, we talked about it already, but you got Michigan State coming back Saturday. So back-to-back games, both at home. And I believe there's some Lincoln Stars action as well. So a lot of action down in that area of Lincoln. But first up, Northwestern at 6 p.m. What do you see in Northwestern this year.
They're another team that's playing with a lot of belief right now. They actually beat Michigan earlier last week in 5, kind of a dramatic fashion. I believe they were down 10-6 in the 5th set, came back and won that. I actually watched that on Big Ten Network that night, and they got some arms on the team. When I say arms, girls that can jump really quickly and hit the ball really hard. A little smaller than some of the other teams we play, but they're playing really well. And I also think they just from watching them a little bit, they can sub people in and out, and it doesn't necessarily affect or lessen their level of play. So if someone struggles, they can put somebody else in, and that's such a huge luxury to have, especially in conferences. It gives coaching staffs like ourselves have to prepare for more and be ready for more people. So it just makes the challenge is also being efficient with your time when it comes to that kind of stuff.
And you're adding pages to their scouting.
Exactly, right? You have we got to prepare for, instead of a couple outside hitters, maybe one or two more, and maybe one more middle. So that just stuff takes time, can make other schools inefficient at what they're doing. They got up to a nice start in the preseason. I believe, maybe you can help me out with this, Brady, but I think they've already got 12, 13 wins on the season.
They're sitting at 13-7, 3-5 in conference.
Right.
So
which
far.
is
and a pretty good road team. Actually,
yeah.
They do better on the road than at home. They're 4-2 on the road, 4-5 at home.
Yeah. So, you could probably look it back, but I'm not sure how many matches, but I know they definitely did not win 13 matches last season, I believe. So they're already off to a hot start. They played some teams like Michigan, like a Michigan State. They played some of those teams really tough. So we're going to have to be ready. Just like the football team is going to have to be ready on Saturday to play Northwestern. We're going to have to be ready, for what they like to do. And one thing that I know they like to do for sure, some of us want a video, is they like to set their pin attackers, so their outside hitters and their opposites, a lot of volleyballs. They don't set as much to the middle from what we've seen, but we have to be ready for that as well. But they're a team that is very pin dominant driven.
Yeah, and I looked it up. They were 5-23 last year. So obviously 13-7 already. They already surpassed last year's total. And I mean, just from the outside looking in, is Northwestern one of those Big Ten programs that seems to be kind of ramping up into just a better, more consistent program?
I think so. They had a new coach take over.
Their first year or second year?
Second year. Tim's second year over there. He came from the Grand Canyon program. He's off the Mick Haley USC volleyball coaching tree. So he's a really, really awesome guy and stuff like that. I've gotten to coach a couple camps, just club camps over the summers with him, and he seems like a really, really nice guy. Just watching him coach, it seems like his players really enjoy playing for him. He made Grand Canyon a winner, and now he's at Northwestern. And year one, I don't think was the best indicator, because sometimes you have to go through a transition. Sometimes at Northwestern, it's not as easy to get kids into school there because of how good of an academic institution it is. You can't just fix problems quickly or fix holes quickly in the roster, because there's only certain transfers can transfer to Northwestern.
Yeah, they got high academic standards, and you tip your cap for it.
Yep. And so I think just in year two, that drastic of a turnaround already is pretty eye opening, and they definitely deserve and will have our full attention going into Friday night. So it should be a great match. A lot of new players for them. Some players playing in different positions. So this is not the same two teams were just both older going at it this year. This is going to be a little different in terms of who's playing for them. They got some transfers from certain schools. And I think one thing is, a lot of the top academic institutions around the country, volleyball is a sport. If you looked at the top 50 recruits, a lot of those kids are really good students. So I think it's an easier, I'm not going to say it's an easy turnaround, but I think there's one of those things where, hey, a lot of volleyball players tend to be really good students. And obviously being one of those schools that I'm sure every parent would love to be able to send their kid off to. I think they're doing a really nice job there. And the other thing is too, is like the Chicago area is littered with a lot of great volleyball players, so, we've had a couple on our team the last few years, Taylor Lanfear's from that area. So we have a lot of respect for what they're doing there. And again, they deserve and will get our full attention Friday night.
Yeah, should be going on again, 6 p.m. And if you plan on going to that one, it is the pink match. So be sure to wear some pink. There will not be T-shirts sitting on the stands there for you. But knowing Nebraska fans, you guys do well without it. Michigan State, we already kind of talked about, so we're going to spend a ton of time on it. They're going to come back here. Do you think they're going to throw any different wrinkles, knowing that it's just been such a quick turnaround that you can really anticipate? Or is this one where you kind of just got to look at what they did already, and if they throw something new at you, that you got to figure it out on the fly?
So they played a match against Maryland on Sunday. They won in 5, which ended up being a big win for them. I believe it ended 15-13. And they had some different wrinkles in that match. They jumped into a 6-2, again, going from only one setter and a 5-1 to going a two-setter system, two opposite system, and a 6-2. So they hopped into that for a little bit. It was more like they hopped into it, not just fully did it, like how Michigan, when I was talking about Michigan, did. And then there was a couple other players that got into the game.
Okay.
And they also, in a couple of certain rotations, they ran a couple of different middle blocker opposite routes. So when I'm talking about that is sometimes you'll see us do that where Andy Jackson runs to a different part of the net and maybe Virginia Adriano runs to a different part of the net, or maybe in our rotation 1, we stack everyone on the left and maybe Virginia runs down the middle and Rebecca Alec runs behind. And then there's sometimes where Virginia Adriano runs behind to hit the back set and Rebecca Alec takes her typical route toward the middle. Michigan State in that match against Maryland spent a couple of certain rotations doing those kind of things. So just they showed that they made some wrinkles against Maryland. Sure, then maybe that was a call they just made against Maryland, and maybe they won't do it against us. But that's something we need to prepare for and be ready. I also just don't think in this short a turnaround how much change you can make. Luckily, we'll get to see them. Though we both play a match against somebody else on Friday. They'll play at Iowa Friday, and then we'll play. Obviously, we're hosting Northwestern, so both teams will get to see each other play one more time before we meet. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of those specific things and see. Not saying hey, what they do Friday or this past Sunday is an indicator what they're going to do against us round 2. But I would assume they'll have some changes for us and it might not even be lineup wise. It might even just be like, hey, where they decide to serve or hit the ball.
Yeah, and I'm sure you got a full effort from those guys because, again, you said it was Iowa on the road that they got travel to. So I'd imagine from Iowa straight to Nebraska. It's a nice little road trip. So, and again, that one's Saturday, 7:30. When you have a game like that where it's Friday and then Saturday, how much time is it preparing, getting ready, and how much time is it just resting? So you make sure everyone has what they need.
I think recovery is a big thing. Hopefully, a lot of the recovery, it's just that's part of the reason why you work so hard in the offseason, right? To just be able to go again. Obviously, the depth helps. Hopefully, we can get some of that depth into the game this weekend, which will lighten the load on some people. I think, obviously, just us playing efficient. I know we were talking about Harper playing efficiently, but if we're efficient out there and we do what we need to be doing, I always talked about I remember there was a great quote. This is back when like the Bucks became a really when Giannis I think it was like the year they won the championship or they became really good.
Like 2020.
This is right when load management. You also hear load management in the NBA, right? And there's certain franchises that sometimes just don't play their players. I'm not going to mention who they are, but
Popovich kicked it off.
Load management with certain players, and stuff like that. And that became a big deal, obviously, in the NBA. But Jeff Van Gundy, I'm pretty sure it was him, but he would always talk about, and I know it was him because I can hear his voice still in my head talk about it. He goes, what the best type of load management is? Watch the Bucks. They start their starting lineup. They blow you out by 40. And by the third quarter, Giannis is over there on the bench with ice on his knees. That's load management. And I'm not saying, hey, hopefully we can get our starters out and put ice on their knees. But it's one of those things where if you're super efficient and also ready to play, then you get the game over for yourself quicker, if that makes sense. And not saying, oh my gosh, there's a time limit on how we need to play. But again, the teams that we're ready to go on and making sure we're efficient in how we play, and are we serving the ball, and are we passing the ball to the right spots? As an attackers, are we being responsible, aggressive, but also not reckless attackers? That also helps with all of that recovery, right? I mean, sometimes it's just like a baseball series, right? The longer the series goes, the more pitching arms you need to use. The quicker, the more efficient we can play Friday, the sooner the recovery starts for Saturday. So I think there's a little bit of that. And then, just flipping over game plan wise from what Northwestern wants to do, because they're very different. What Northwestern wants to do Friday to another team like Michigan State on Saturday, I think that's where maybe the familiarity in terms of not playing them 8 days later will help, because it's like, oh, okay, we see it's all the same faces, just in a different place.
Absolutely. And I love the load management part, because when it comes to that stuff, when you're talking about, Gundy, when he goes on his spiel, and he's got a great point, though. You can even look at the Husker teams from those 90s eras. How many records that those guys just don't have because they didn't have to play in the second half whatsoever. And football's a little bit different. You're never going to see that load management, but because they're so dominant early,
right?
You had that rest, and then they go to the next game. The guys
it's not also just the rest, but like all the development for the people behind, right? So it's like now those guys get live game reps. Sometimes they get live game reps against the other team's ones, which is like invaluable in terms of being able to like, hey, we're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to be after. And that's one thing about college or any team, but okay, great. This year's awesome. But like the expectation for us to do well next year is important. Well, getting some of the younger players in the game, getting them this experience. So maybe, hey, when Rebecca Alec graduates and Manaya Obeche, for an example, we get her in the game, like we're getting live reps. So we don't have to, hypothetically, if Manaya became a starter for us next year, we don't have to, predict what would it be like if we played her in a game. Like we've started her in matches. She comes in and plays, and same thing with T. Sigler and Campbell Flynn and some of the younger players on the team that we get to get into the game. And we have a way better indicator, a measuring stick of where they're going to be. Are they a Big Ten performer? We like to think they are, but it's one thing to like, hey, we think, because this translates from club and high school to, we've seen this out on a Big Ten volleyball court, whether it was here in Devaney or on the road anywhere.
Yeah, and sometimes even if they are, they need, how many sets before they finally get into that rhythm of like, okay, now I'm used to the speed, and then they can start playing and be more comfortable and just be the athlete they were that you initially recruited. But with that being said, we already up to our last break here, right here on Serving Volley. So don't go anywhere. We got one more segment on the other side right here, 93.7 The Ticket.
Nebraska farmers, harvest is here and every gallon counts. That's why Sapp Brothers Petroleum launched the Go Big Red Fuel Giveaway. When you contract your fuel with Sapp Brothers, enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits. As Husker Country knows, the only thing stronger than the roar at Memorial Stadium is the drive of a farmer putting food on the table. Fuel your farm with Sapp Brothers Petroleum and enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits. Visit sapbros.net today. Sapp Brothers Petroleum, fueling the heartland. Go Big Red.
If the power is out, traffic lights might be too. If you come across a dark intersection, treat it like a four-way stop. See more tips at les.com/safety.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks. Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
This fall, Baumgars has everything you need to get your farm ready for the season. Stock up on livestock feed, deer corn, and pine shavings to keep your animals fed and your farm running smoothly. Need tools for your fall projects? Grab DeWalt power tools and grass seed to keep your fields in top shape before winter. From your barn to your backyard, Baumgars has you covered. Get ready for the season with everything you need to finish those fall fix-ups. Baumgars, field, farm, and fall fix-ups.
Are you looking to upgrade your equipment and keep cash in your pocket? Through October at Landmark Implement, get up to a 24-month waiver on select John Deere tractors and combines. Or lock in a 2.9% fixed rate for 36 months, followed by a qualified standard rate for another 36 months. Whether you're thinking of this year's harvest or planning ahead, we've got a solution that works for your bottom line. Visit your local Landmark Implement for more details or check us out at landmarkimp.com and experience the Landmark difference.
Welcome into Serve and Volley with your host, Nebraska assistant coach and recruiting coordinator Jaylen Reyes.
Welcome back in. Serve and Volley, Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Jaylen Reyes. Also, just a sports guy in general, and obviously he's an NBA fan. And we do got the NBA preseason starting up, and the NBA regular season already October 21st will be here before you know it. And I find out that you're a Lakers fan. I just first got to ask, how do you get to the Lakers? You're in Hawaii. Is it just the big city?
I just in Hawaii, we always got like the Fox Sports Net West stuff, right? So it's
Kobe was awesome.
Yeah, Kobe. I grew up, started paying attention to sports in the late not even late 90s, because I wouldn't say I missed the Michael Bulls heyday. I was alive. Mm-hmm. I was born in 92, so I was 6 when he won his last championship. I do remember when Tim Duncan, they beat I believe the Latrell Sprewell Knicks. Yep. They won his first championship. And then obviously I was more ingrained into sports by the time the Shaq and Kobe stuff started. So I think that's why I became a Laker fan. And obviously just being a West Coast person, it was pretty easy for me to pick that. And yeah, I just kind of rode with the Lakers ever since. It did help. I actually got to watch LeBron James play a high school basketball game.
How'd you get into that?
He played in St. Vincent, St. Mary's.
Was it at that point where it was just crazy packed?
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay. It was his junior year. So it was right after they smashed Carmelo Anthony in Oak Hill, where I think he cemented himself okay, Carmelo Anthony is the best player in his class, and LeBron is clearly better than him. I think that was, so then they played in a tournament in Hawaii. There's a tournament every year. It's called the Iolani Classic. It's a rival high school of mine that they host. Nike helps them host it's a Christmas break tournament for, I've seen Rajon Rondo playing it. I've seen, Boogie Cousins playing it. I've seen Kevin Durant playing it. All these big prep schools. I don't think Cooper Flagg played in it. I don't think IMG played in it 2 years ago. Just a bunch, a bunch of guys that end up going to Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, a bunch of guys, a lot of guys in the NBA actually now that have played in it. I think Ant Edwards played in it back in the day.
I think you're right. Yep.
When he was a senior, I believe. A bunch of Duke recruit, Montverde, IMGs. They don't go every year, but they kind of mix when they go. And so AJ Devanza played in it last year. Yeah, I was wait, I'm splanking on one, but I forgot he went to BYU. So just, I remember my dad was a big, even though he's a volleyball coach, he really loved watching basketball. So he would always take us as little kids and he'd always say, oh, this guy's going to go to this school and this person's going to go to this school.
You could argue two of the most beautiful sports when the team chemistry between volleyball and basketball.
Yeah.
The passing in those games. That's why I love basketball. I'm the assist maker. I was a big Chris Paul fan. That's why I'm a Jokic fan.
Right.
And volleyball is kind of the same thing. When when you're watching beautiful volleyball, the same way when you're watching beautiful basketball. So I can see how those two sports really align.
So he took us there and we get to see LeBron play, and you're just wow. And then you follow him, and obviously he ends up doing. Whether you're a LeBron fan or not, I would be hard pressed to argue he's not one of the best players ever.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Better than Michael Jordan. I don't want to get you into too much trouble.
In my opinion, it would be really, I'm not going to say impossible, but it'd be really hard to be someone better than Michael. I don't think being number 2 ever is a notch below, but I would also be hard pressed to say you can't argue that LeBron could do stuff that Michael couldn't, right? In terms of guarding all 5 positions. Maybe Michael could have done that.
I'm a Bulls fan, so
but he was a better. In my opinion, LeBron was a better facilitator, point guard, passer.
100%. Yeah.
So it's just kind of what you value, and it's not I don't know. And when in my opinion, this debate, whenever I used to hear it or be a part of it, it's not to tear down the other person, because it's like, I mean, you kind of, you know, you can even make an argument you don't maybe get a LeBron if you don't have the Michael, right? And I grew up with Kobe, right? Kobe always got put into that way too. Like Kobe himself says, you don't get him without Michael, you know? So that's why for me, I'd always say Michael, but just being a Laker fan, obviously the fact that I was a LeBron fan, ended up playing for the Lakers, it's been great. Obviously we won a championship. Yes, I do think the bubble championship does count. And
the Mickey Mouse title.
Yeah, you know, so but it's been an interesting time being a Laker fan lately. Obviously, we're good enough to be there. We're obviously going to always be relevant because of just the brand alone.
You're the Lake Show.
You know, I wish, I don't know. I'm actually really excited for the Luka Doncic trade because I just want to believe long term it's going to go well. I just hope they do a great job of surrounding people and not, I kind of call it fast food, but not making an impulsive decision personnel wise to like, ooh, this could get us a little bit better versus, and I'm not saying we need to tank because I don't think the Lakers can do that. I think it would be really, really not a great look if they did it because I know a lot of other franchises do, but they're allowed. I'm not going to say those franchises are allowed to, but they don't get as much scrutiny as the Lakers do. But
you look at the cap space they have, and it's like, okay, clearly Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, they're not in that second tax apron, but you're spending a lot of money.
But there's not a lot of moves available to make, and you know, I think there's a little bit of it's just not in the cards right now, right? Like, you know, there was hey, what are they going to do in the offseason? You know, just because I know they're paying you know, they're paying LeBron, they're paying Luka, Austin Reeves. There's not as much flexibility. Now it's like, can Luka, you know, it's kind of hard to say, can he get better? But can he get better at certain things? Obviously, like defensively, I know everyone's been kind of hammering that. I know, can he get in better shape? I know people have been hammering him for that. I'm also one to argue too. I'm like, man, if out of shape is averaging 36, 12, and 8 in the NBA finals or on the way to the NBA finals, I'm like, man, I can't wait for everyone to get him in shape and see what that looks like. But I think just surrounding it, it seems like the team has transitioned into doing what's best around Luka, necessarily not LeBron anymore. That doesn't mean LeBron isn't obviously influential to the success of the team.
Yeah, he'll still give you 28, 7, and 8.
Yeah, I mean, he's
like
still,
he does every year.
The crazy thing about LeBron, in my opinion, is just I think I read something once where you could make an argument by the time he was his third year in the league, you could make an argument he was the best player in the league. Yeah, you could make an argument he was the best player in the league, and I think the only other debate was like Kobe back then. And then you get to like after Kobe, obviously he was by far the best player in the league when he started taking Cleveland to like the finals and stuff like that. And then when he went to Miami, I know they blew one big one to Dallas, but he was still the best player in the league by far. Then he went back to Cleveland. You know, you could still make an argument he's still like top 10 in the league.
I think you do.
Which is
I
crazy
think it's
because you think about it.
To say he's not.
His third year in the league, I saw a picture of him. He had a flip phone. Just think about how far in life we've come from like LeBron James has been a top 10 player in the NBA back when flip phones were the cool thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so before the sidekick, before the BlackBerry, he was, you know, so for me, it's just the longevity, and that should matter in terms of the GOAT talk. Nor do I think he's better than Michael Jordan, but hey, in terms of, I don't think you can argue. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a big basketball expert, but I don't know if a player has had the length of which he's been a top 10 player in the league than LeBron. Close. I don't think it's even close. So
maybe Bill Russell, but Bill Russell didn't play nearly that long. So no.
You know what I mean? I know he won a lot.
Yeah, but it wasn't over to that.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And also at that time, there was
what is that?
His
third year in the league was what, 2005? I mean, you make an argument. It's what, 2025 now? So it's like, man, you spend 20 years as a top 10 player in my opinion, the best athletes in the world play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Sure, there's great athletes in MLB. There's great athletes playing volleyball. There's great athletes playing in the NFL. Obviously, there's great athletes playing tennis. But in terms of like when you think of, hey, who's the best athlete in the world? most of the time, the first thing you're thinking of is probably an NBA player. And you're probably thinking of LeBron, actually. But you're thinking of Giannis. You're thinking of like really big, really strong, fast, long, right? Like if you think about athleticism, that's what you're thinking
twitch.
of. Yeah, quick twitch. The average guy in the NBA is a 0.0001 percentile athlete, you know? So the fact that you can say somebody's like a top 10 athlete player in that league for 20 years is crazy to me, you know?
That's why I agree with you. That's why I'm not going to doubt the Lakers. I just haven't done anything with LeBron James. Until he's out of the league, it's, again, how old is he? Like 42, maybe? No?
Something? Yeah.
And he's going to give you 28-7.
Back in 2002,
just,
you know what I mean? If you did the math
unreal.
that way. It's, I mean, and yeah, sure, you know, this might be a little hot take, or I'm maybe not going to give you a take, but I mean, you get to play. I know we were talking about Ken Griffey Jr. earlier in the show, but I mean, you get to play on a professional team with your son.
Yeah.
Like,
it's cool. I don't care what you say. That's incredible.
Like, you know, I mean, even if you can say, okay, hey, they drafted him because they wanted to keep LeBron happy. Well, I'm like, well, then that mattered to the Lakers, and that mattered to a 40-year-old. Like, what other 40-year-old is getting their son drafted on the team just to keep them happy? Usually by the time most athletes are 27, 28, 29, they're like labeled as old if they're not stars yet. So the fact that you're drafting a 40, 41-year-old son, for me, it's like, well, you know, I don't know.
I mean, call it what you will, but it speaks to how good that guy's been. The greatness of LeBron James. You don't have to be the biggest fan of him, but you just can't deny reality. With that being said, though, this is going to wrap it up. Serve and Volley. Got a little bit of NBA talk here at the end. With Nebraska volleyball assistant coach Jaylen Reyes. Again, be sure to support the volleyball team. They got 2 matches this weekend, Friday and Saturday. They got Northwestern Friday and then Michigan State on Saturday. So should be another great weekend. Be sure to support them. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Appreciate you guys listening right here on 93.7 The Team.